She is not flirting with you. She is fighting the urge too. And the moment she loses that fight is the moment you'll almost miss completely. There's a moment that happens with almost every woman who is genuinely into you. And it's the exact opposite of what every dating show and a movie taught you to look for. You've been trained to watch for the giggle, the hair pull-up, the constant eye contact, the girl who's laughing at everything you say like you're the funniest person alive. But a real attraction, the deep kind, the kind that actually means something, doesn't usually look like that at all. It looks like silence. It looks like her getting a little more careful with her words. It looks like her pulling back just slightly instead of leaning in. And if you don't know how to read that, you'll walk right past the woman who wants you the most and chase the one who's just being polite. Here's what's actually happening in her brain when this occurs. When a woman is truly attracted to someone, her nervous system treats that person differently than it treats someone she is just being friendly with. With a friend, there is no rest, so she is relaxed. She is loud, she is playful, she says whatever comes to mind because nothing is on the line. But with someone she actually wants, suddenly there's something at stake. Her brain starts asking questions like, does he like me back? Did I just say something dumb? Am I being too much right now? That minor noise doesn't make her more expensive, it makes her more guarded. And that guarded energy is the biggest tool in the entire game of attraction. Think about it like this. Have you ever been so nervous before something important that your voice got quieter instead of louder? That your jokes stopped landing because you were too busy thinking about how you were coming across? That's exactly what's happening to her. The girl who wants you isn't performing for you. She is protecting herself from you because on some level you have the power to disappoint her, and that changes everything about how she shows up at the moment. If this is hitting home right now, there are 2 green hearts in the comments. I want to see how many of you needed this today. This is why so many men get it backwards. You meet a woman who is loud, confident, teasing you non-stop, laughing at your dumbest jokes like you're a comedy genius, and you think she's obsessed with me. Meanwhile, there's another woman in the same room who barely says 2 sentences to you, who seems almost distracted or distant. And you write her off completely, but 9 times out of 10 it's the quiet one who's actually spiraling internally about you, replaying the conversation in her head hours later, while the loud one has already forgotten your name. Let's talk about eye contact, because this one turns up almost everyone. You'd think a woman who is into you would stare deeply into your eyes the entire conversation, right? Wrong. Genuine attraction often causes her to break eye contact first, to look away and smile to herself, to glance at you, and then quickly look somewhere else like she got caught doing something she shouldn't. That flustered, cause quite a whole discern energy is one of the most reliable, most overlooked signals that exist. The woman who can stare you down without blinking, without any nerves adult is usually the one who feels nothing. What if the compliment she wants to hear isn't a compliment at all? Now let's talk about texting, because this plays out online just as much as it does in person. A woman who genuinely catches feelings will sometimes take longer to respond, not because she's playing games, but because she's overthinking every single word before she sends it. She'll type something out, delete it, rewrite it, delete it again, and finally send something short and safe. Meanwhile, the woman who's just been friendly will fire back instantly with zero filter because there's zero pressure attached to conversation. If a text thread suddenly gets slower and more careful after things start feeling real, that's not distance. That's her heart rate picking up on the other end of the phone. Physical space works the same strange way. You'd expect a woman who wants you to close the gap, to sit closer, to find excuses to touch your arm. And sometimes that happens, but just as often she does the opposite. She creates a little more distance. She angles her body slightly away. She becomes hyper-aware of every inch of space between you two. That hyper-awareness is the giveaway. And difference doesn't track distance, only attraction tracks distance, because only attraction has something to lose. Here's something that will genuinely shock you if you've never thought about it this way. The version of a woman who's the most sarcastic with you, who teases you the hardest, who acts like she is mildly annoyed by your existence, is very often the version of a woman who likes you the most. Teasing is a socially acceptable way to create tension without admitting vulnerability. If she is giving you a hard time, poking fun, rolling her eyes at your jokes, but still sticking around for more of them, her nervous system is doing backflips even while her face is doing the opposite. Let's go deeper into the biology here, because this is where it gets wild. When a woman is genuinely nervous around someone, she is attracted to. Her body is flooded with cortisol and adrenaline, the same chemicals your body produces during a stressful situation. That's not a coincidence. Attraction and anxiety activate almost identical physical responses: racing heart, sweaty palms, a tightness in the chest. Everything that goes momentarily blind. So when she seems a little soft, a little awkward, a little off around you compared to how relaxed she is with everyone else, that awkwardness isn't rejection. It's her body responding to you like you're a genuine event happening in her life. This is also why the quiet, reserved woman is so often underrated by men who don't understand psychology. She's not boring. She's not uninterested. She is regulating an internal storm that you can't see from the outside. Meanwhile, the guy sitting across from her is reading her calm exterior as desirous and moving on to chase someone louder, someone easier to read, someone who feels safer because there's less messy involved. And that's the tragedy of this whole dynamic. So many genuine connections get messed because men are taught to look for fireworks instead of looking for stirring. Have you ever caught someone getting quiet around you and thought it meant they were interested. Let's talk about a specific pattern you need to start noticing immediately. Watch what happens when you say something slightly bold, slightly flirty, slightly outside the normal conversation zone. A woman who's not interested will usually respond instantly and casually, almost brushing past it like it didn't register. But a woman who's interested will often pause, laugh a little too long, look away, or change the subject a bit too quickly. That pause is data. That overcorrection is data. Her brain needed an extra half second to process what just happened between you two. And that half second is worth more than an hour of obvious flirting from someone who doesn't actually care. Another overlooked signal is how she treats you in front of other people. You'd assume a woman who likes you would show you off, brag about you, make it obvious to her friends. Sometimes that's true, but often it's the reserve. She gets quieter around you when other people are present, almost protective of whatever is happening between you two. Like she doesn't want anyone else to see how much you actually affect her. If she's more herself with you one-on-one and more present with you in groups, that shift isn't coldness, that's her guarding something she considers valuable. Here's a mindset shift that will change how you read every interaction from now on. Confidence without nerves usually means comfort, not attraction. Think about your closest friend, the one you've known for years. You're completely comfortable around them, completely yourself, zero nerves, because there's no romantic tension clouding the interaction. Now think about someone you actually had a crush on. Remember how different that felt. The awkward pauses, the overthinking, the second guessing everything. That discomfort wasn't a red flag. It was the entire point. Comfort is what friendship feels like. A little bit of nervous energy is often what real distraction feels like, especially early on. Let's bring this into your actual dating life right now, because this isn't just theory. This is something you can use today. If you're talking to a woman and she seems a little nervous, a little clumsy with her words, a little too quick to laugh at nothing or go quiet for no reason, stop reading that as disinterest and start reading it as a signal worth paying attention to. Leaning in slightly. Keep the conversation light. Don't call it out directly, because that will only make her more self-conscious, but internally recognize that you might be dealing with someone who cares a lot more than she is letting on. On the flip side, here's how you protect yourself from wasted time underrun signals. If a woman is completely smooth around you, totally unbothered, zero nerves, treats you exactly the same as she treats everyone else in the room, that's usually comfort, not chemistry. There's nothing wrong with that version of a connection, but don't confuse it for something deeper than it actually is. The absence of nervous energy and someone who's romantically available to you is one of the most honest signals you'll ever get. Even if it's not the answer you were hoping for. What if the actual one in the room actually likes you the most? Now, let's talk about the real life example. So, this actually strengthens in your memory. Picture two women at a dinner. One of them is cracking jokes, touching your arm, laughing loudly at everything, the center of attention the entire night. The other one barely talks, seems a little distracted, glances at you a few times, but looks away fast when you catch her doing it, and leaves relatively early without much of a goodbye. Most men would chase the first woman and forget the second one ever existed, but that second woman went home and thought about you for the rest of the night, replaying small details, wondering if you noticed her adult while the first woman was already on to her next conversation before she even left the building. This pattern shows up especially strong with women who are naturally confident and outgoing in every other area of their life. If you meet a woman who is normally the loudest person in any room, the one who commands attention everywhere she goes, and suddenly around you she gets noticeably quieter, more reserved, almost a different version of herself. Pay very close attention to that shift, that contrast between her normal personality and her personality around you is one of the loudest signals a woman can send without saying a single word. Let's talk about why this matters for your daily life outside of just dating apps and first meetings. This pattern shows up in existing relationships too. If your partner suddenly gets quiet during a conversation that actually matters to her, if she chooses her words more carefully instead of just blurting things out, that's often a sign she cares deeply about how this specific moment goes. Not that she is losing interest. Learning to read that nervous energy as investment instead of distance will completely change how you communicate with the people you care about. Whether you're 3 weeks into dating someone or 3 years into a relationship, here's something practical you can start doing immediately. Instead of only paying attention to what a woman says, start paying attention to the gap between her words and her energy. If her words are casual but her energy feels tense, trust the energy. If she says it's fine but her voice got quieter and she looked away while saying it, that mismatch is far more honest than the actual sentence coming out of her mouth. Most people communicate their real feelings through tone, pacing, and body language long before they communicate it through actual words. And once you start noticing that gap, you'll never read people the same way again. If you want more breakdowns like this, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And tell me in the comments which playlist you want me to dive into next. I'm reading every single one. This also explains why some of the most honest and long-lasting relationships start off looking like nothing at all. The couple who barely talked at first, who seemed a little awkward together, who took forever to actually make a move, often ends up being far more solid than the couple who had instant chemistry and fireworks from day one. Nervous energy that builds slowly tends to be built on something real, something your nervous system is actually taking seriously. While instant fireworks can sometimes burn out just as fast as they started. Let's talk about how to actually use this without overthinking every single interaction inside oblivion. You don't need to analyze every woman you meet like you're running a psychological experiment. Just keep this one filter in the back of your mind. Loud, easy, zero nerves energy usually means comfort. Quieter, slightly awkward, slightly guarded energy around you specifically, especially if it's different from how she acts with everyone else, usually means something deeper is happening beneath the surface. That a single filter will save you from misreading people for the rest of your life. At the end of the day, instruction was never supposed to be loud. It was never supposed to announce itself with fireworks and neon signs. Your instruction is quiet. It's careful. It's a woman choosing her words a little more slowly because she actually cares how they land with you. The next time you meet someone who seems a little nervous, a little reserved, a little harder to read than everyone else around you, don't walk away from that. Lean into it. Stay curious and pay attention because that quiet, awkward energy might be the loudest I want you. She knows how to give without saying the words out loud. She is quiet, a little nervous, and barely making eye contact, and you think that means she's not into you. In reality, that's exactly what real attraction looks like before she is ready to show it. This video breaks down the opposite of flirting signals you've been missing your whole dating life. Alright, so if you've ever felt like you're doing everything right, but still missing what a mature woman actually wants, this was for you. I'm breaking down 22 things she's secretly craving that she'll probably never say out loud. Full videos on the screen. Go check it out for the complete breakdown.